Yes. Okay. So, like starting with this chapter, this is the syllabus content. As usual, it's relatively a little longer chapter, but then again, most of these things we have already covered. I mean, you people have already studied in class 10. And like especially that monohybrid cross, dihybrid cross. So whole of this with Mendel's experiment that has been done. So we'll kind of rush through it. Like we need not spend a lot of time, but yeah, if at all you feel that it has to be discussed in the class, then we will spend relatively more time around it. But otherwise, I'm gonna push through this topic of the Mendel experiment, and then of course rest of the topics they are quite new to you, like for example incomplete dominance and so on. Even this biological importance of Mendelism, where all it is important, and there are few concepts like bar bodies and stuff. So that will go over, and then we can decide what has to be emphasized more and what not, as and when we go forward. Okay, so then starting here with the basic concepts, that is with respect to inheritance. Now again, these basics you are very much aware, but just because we have to stick to those keywords when we are defining some things, that's why I'm mentioning it here in addition. So inheritance refers to transmission of characters from parents to offspring, that is, and that goes along like from one generation to other generation throughout the generation, right? That is what is inheritance. That is, in other words, it is the genetic continuity of the germinal material. Germinal material refers to the material or the genetic makeup of the germinal cell, that is the germ cell or gametes. So genetic continuity of these germinal material from parents to offspring generation. So that is inheritance. Genetics in general, it deals with the mechanism of transmission. This was actual transmission, and the mechanism by which the inheritance occur, that is the study of genetics. That is the mechanism of transmission of characters from parent to offspring and causes the variation in closely related organism. So variation is one of the important component of this genetics. And why does it happen? That particular mechanism is included in the genetic study. The term was coined by this Bateson in 1905, and it is derived from this word called genesis, which means to grow into something, right? So that is what is the genetics refers to. Variation, again, differences amongst the related individuals, like dissimilarities in terms of their traits and so on. Those are the members of the species, not just the related individual, but also within the whole of the species. That particular dissimilarity is variation. Though offspring they resemble their parents, they are not identical, right? And this fact you know very well. Except the identical twins, that is a separate case, which we'll see here in the last point, that is the clone and offspring. So organism produced by asexual reproduction, they are exact copies of their parent, because there is no crossing over that is happening. So that's why they are called as ramets, and the group of these identical individuals produced by from a single parent. Single parent, again, in case of like happening from a seed or vegetative propagation, most importantly, right? That is what is a clone. So that is the clone, and the second term is offspring. It is strictly used for the progeny that is produced by sexual reproduction. So if it is asexual reproduction, we call it clone. If it is sexual reproduction, we call it offspring. Identical twins, they are clone to each other, but they are offspring to their parent, because they are same copies or exact copies of each other. In relation to parent, they will always be offspring, but in relation to each other, they will be clones of each other. So that is the difference here. Rest otherwise all the asexually reproduced species or organisms, they will be called clone, and the sexually reproduced one, they will be called offsprings. So that is the basic concept. Now, before we even go over with the Mendel's experiment, before Mendel's work was actually like coming to picture, there was this pre-Mendelian era, like not as such an era, but yeah, before the Mendel's experiments happened, that particular time period is called pre-Mendelian. And during that, scientists usually believe that the characters of these two parents, that is mother and father, they get blended or they get mixed up and in the offspring, and they will produce the intermediate results. So the notion was like, let's say if one of the parent has like brown eyes and the other has kind of blue eyes, then the offspring will have kind of mixture of it. Same goes with the skin color or hair color or whatever characteristic we take. Earlier it was thought that it is the mixing or blending of these characters from the parents into the offspring, and they will produce intermediate results. And that particular concept is known as blending inheritance, which is not at all true anymore, because that was the old concept. So that is the blending inheritance. And then later on, the particulate theory was given by this guy called as Maupertuis. The parental character do not blend in the offspring. They remain discrete and may reappear after several generations. So he was kind of close to what Mendel discovered, saying that the parental characters do not blend in the offspring. It's not the direct blending of the characters, but something else is happening. And in sometimes they remain discrete, or sometimes they reappear in after several generations. That is what is recessive trait currently. So this guy, in his particular theory, he was quite close to Mendel's laws. Then another German botanist called Reuter, he presented the experiment evidence to show this particular fact. And although his observations were similar to Mendel, but he could not interpret them. The most important part with Mendel was that he was able to represent it in a mathematical formula and creating certain law-like statements, like which happened later. But just because of his research work, of Mendel's research work, it was possible. And Kohlreuter, even though he did something similar, but he was not able to interpret it. And there were again various reasons that we will see while we are studying the Mendel's work. I hope there should be like there are no questions here. If there are, please do ask. I will move forward. So studying about the Mendelian inheritance. Now Mendelian inheritance relatively is a very wide topic as such, and it talks about how is the inheritance pattern going from different generations. So Gregor Johann Mendel, that is the complete name of Mendel, what we call in short, he is known as the father of genetics. And like he tried to study this plant, which is a garden pea plant known as Pisum sativa. So he was actually the first one to understand and study the mechanism of transmission of characters from parents to the offspring generation, and thereafter several generations. And that is why he is known as the father of genetics. He published his experiments in like results in like this was the title of his results, that is experiments in plant hybridization, and he published in the annual proceedings of natural history. Now why I am telling you this, because it has relation to the of information ahead, so that's why we need to remember this just for the time being. And then that was done in 1965. So he published his result in 1965. So Mendel work, like his complete experimental work, remained unnoticed for almost 34 years. So from 19, sorry, this has to be 1865. That is wrongly written here, not 1965. That is totally wrong. So in 1865, then his work remained unnoticed for 34 years. So almost until 1900th year, there was no recognition for Mendel's work. And there were reasons, like because he published in obscure journal, which was very in a very small society of Brunn. That's where he published. The others, they were preoccupied with Darwin's theory of evolution, because that was the time when Darwin's theory of origin of species, how it came into picture, and people were like discussing more about those controversies. So other biological topics, they were not given much of importance. The others were also ignorant about the cytological basis, that is the cell-based mechanism of heredity. So that was totally unknown. And also the use of mathematics as such to explain the biological concept was like has not happened earlier. So Mendel was the first one to explain it in those terms. And that is why again people did not uh, believe it, like whatever Mendel did. And of course he was far ahead of time in terms of his thinking and his work. So that was another reason people did not believe him easily, that whatever Mendel did is right thing. But then eventually, like when he died at 19, again not 19, why I'm writing this, so it's 1884, when he died in that particular year. His work was rediscovered in like 1900 year by these three gentlemen. Hugo de Veres, like they were from different countries, so they were doing independent research work. I guess one was from, this one is from Holland, this one is German, and this one is, I guess, Austrian also. So all three were studying independently, without any collaboration, and they were working on the same concept. And they like this, specifically the Correns, he popularized the Mendel's two generalization in terms of making it into a law like statement. That is what we currently know as law of segregation and law of independent assortment. And Bateson, he also found the Mendel's law they apply to animals as well. So Mendel's experiment, they were only done with the plants, and this guy, he found it in animals as well, that the traits are being carried forward in the various generation. So that was the overall background of these Mendel's experiments. And also the reason for success, that why Mendel got succeeded. So early until here, what we saw was what Mendel tried to do in a very brief statement, that is to study the transmission of characters. Then what plant he used, what were the reason that Mendel's work was not recognized for quite a while, that is 34 years is almost a lifetime journey of the scientist, right? Like whenever someone goes into a research lab or become a scientist, they spend usually on an average 30 to 40 years in the lab of their career. And that way, this was the whole lifetime which was spent, and still he did not get any recognition even after his death for next 16 years. But then after his death, these three guys, they like they were working independently, they found that there is something already which has been studied, so why not to bring it forward. And that's when the Mendel's work came into picture in reality. So now the another thing behind why Mendel's work was so successful, right? Uh, there were few reasons, because of his method of working, that the specific studying of the inheritance of one character at a time. So earlier also people have done several experiments like Mendel, but they studied more character, because you can imagine if a plant is there, and there is a flower, there is a fruit, there is a seed, there is a leaf pattern, and so on. There are so many characters, right? And people did not study it one character at a time, which Mendel did. So he only took one character, and then he studied for several generations. He might have done it simultaneously, obviously, like one character at a time, but then he carried out experiments up to a second and third generation, which was another most important milestone for Mendel's work, because if we need to check for the traits being carried out through the generations, then we need to study for at least three generations. That is when we can confirm that okay, this is what is happening over the generation time. And that's what Mendel also did. He studied those experiments for second and third generation as well. He maintained the statistical record of all the experiments. So how many plants he took, how many offsprings he got, all of that statistical record. Also in terms of if he is crossing different species of pea plant, right? Let's say for example, white flower crossed with purple flower. Then in the offspring, how many white flowers and how many purple flowers. So this is a kind of statistical record, right? He maintained all that statistical record of all the experiments and then finally analyzed them. And he did that very carefully. So crossbreeding was also done between the parents of pure lines. So pure lines, it's actually nothing but white flower producing plant will always produce white flower, or green seed producing plant will always produce green seeds. So that is the pure line. That means same
But,
character. Yes.
but how did he know that it was a pure line?
Ha.
For that, you have to know modern genetics, right? Like,
Not necessarily. That is what is the base of this modern genetics is this Mendel's experiment. So when you let's say for example you randomly take groundnut from your home and you sow it in like a pot or so whatever, and then you whenever you will get the next generation of that, you again sow them and you see the traits, right? If you are getting the same trait for one particular character, let's say for example in this case of groundnut, you are getting the same trait of the seed color or the size of the seed, right? That means that is a pure line. If it is crossed with something else by pollination, cross pollination, right? Then there is a chance that this, let's say, color of the seed will change or the size of the seed will change. That will not be a pure line anymore. So that is the way he established these pure lines first, and then these pure lines, they were crossed with each other, right? And that is what is crossbreeding was done between the parents of pure lines. So that means pure lines were
oh, but like up to the second or third generations, like the experiments he carried out, that's just probability, right? I mean, like if the plant might have a gene that like is not pure, but because of probability for the like at the second and third generation, like up to which he carried out the experiments, it wouldn't show.
So what you are referring to is only a single experiment. So whenever we do experiments in biology, we always do it in minimum triplicate, right? So it has to show the same result all the three times, which are done independently of each other. So if that is the case, he will not probably get it in one. Rare chance is there that in all of the cases, all the three triplicate samples, he will get a false positive, right? So that way, like what we study is again only a tip of what he exactly did. But otherwise, if you go into details, he did those triplicate of experiments, and then and also several generations. Like here we say he studied minimum 2 or 3 generations. Right? It does not mean he only studied those many. Sometimes he even went beyond and studied it. Also, he repeated those experiments at times. So, like I guess he was studying these experiments for almost 9 years or so, and which is quite a lot of time to do this work. So that way, this has been done. So the crossbreeding was done between the parents of pure lines. So that I explained. Now, also the pure lines of the parents, they were ascertained by self-crossing test. So this is where your question comes into picture, right? Now you get like you have a pure lines. Let's say, for example, white flower producing plant. 3 generations after, you have gotten white flowers, and let's say according to you that is wrong, right? Wrong in the sense, some genotype mixing or something has happened, but still it is producing white flower. Now, from other experiment, he has also got again the same type of cross with different plant, but white flower producing plant. So he again comes to third generation with that plant. Now, this third generation white flower producing plant with the first generation, not first generation, from the first experiment, again the third generation white flower producing plant, he crossed them, right? So the pure lines of the parents, they were ascertained by self-crossing. Self-crossing means from the self-breed, that is the same breed, he crossed them, and that led to, if it leads to again a white flower in the example that I take, that means the breed is very, very pure. There is no manipulation at all. So that way, the like confirmation was done by Mendel. And also large sample size. Not just one plant was studied. The sample size was large. So this is again an additional benefit why Mendel's method of working was really a successful experiment. So that is the Mendel's first part of working. Now again, there were few advantages why he specifically chose this Pisum sativum or garden pea plant. Again, because it's an annual plant, that means it grows throughout the year. You plant it anytime, it will grow. Short life cycle, the regeneration time until the next generation is very short. I guess it's almost a month or so. That is still very short compared to other plants. He's like studying several generation is possible in short time. That means, let's say if you want to study within a year, you can minimum study like at least like 6 to 7 or even more if possible. Like, but minimum, like you can surely do that basic minimum requirement, and that is why it was chosen. Flowers, they are complete. Complete flower means they have all the parts within the flower. That is your male reproductive structures, female reproductive structures, and then the stamen and the carpel and petals and so on, right? All of it is there in the flower, and that's why it's a complete flower. And predominantly it is self-pollinating. That means most of the times it will self-pollinate. So same anthers will fall on the same flower, or of the either the same flower or of the same plant. That is still self-pollination. And these pure lines, they are available later, like due to the self-pollination and homozygosity. So whenever you wanted to do experiments with the pure lines, they were actually available, and they can be maintained by the self-pollination and ultimately maintaining the homozygosity. Homozygosity means both of these genes, we are going to look into this homozygosity, but both of the alleles, they code for the same gene or same trait, right? For example, if it is a white flower, there will be one gene which is coming from father, the other gene which is coming from mother, and then they are mixed in the offspring, so that there are two copies which will indicate that flower has to be white in color. So that is what is homozygosity. Both the alleles for one particular character, they are same, and that is homozygosity. The number of easily detectable contrasting character, both dominant as well as recessive, there were quite a few. He chose 7, which we'll see in the next part. So they were easily detectable. Like if you see the flower color or seed shape or the seed color and so on, all these characters, they can be easily detectable. You don't need anything else but just to open up or just look at the plant, observe it and note it down. So that way it was very, very easy. He need not do any experiment for that particular part. And the large number of seed in one generation. This is another fact. Within one particular generation, you get from one particular plant, you get quite many seeds of this garden pea plant. And that is why Mendel chose this Pisum sativum over the other plant. So there is also some history behind his work. He was actually what you say, kind of a monk. He started working in a not nursery, what is it called, a church. and they had a big garden, and that's where he, while being a priest or monk there, he tried to work alongside in the garden by doing these experiments over the period of 9 years, and then he noted down and published his result. So that is the like quick story. You can read more about it on Wikipedia also. Okay, so that is about why he chose, why he became successful, and so on. Now coming to what traits he chose. Now selection of the traits, that is he chose actually the 7 contrasting characters. Contrasting because they have 2 separate character for one particular trait. Like trait can be a shape of the seed and it expresses as round or wrinkled, or color of the seed, then it is yellow and green. So that way, which one is dominant and which one is recessive, that is also being mentioned on this part. But these were the 2 different traits for each of the character, right? And he had chosen this based on whatever was easier to observe from the outside of the plant, and no need of further experimentation just to identify the trait. That was not required at all. So I hope you remember these particular traits from your class 10. If not, these are just the factual details, so you can read it out later as well. That is shape of the seed, color of the seed, color of the pods, shape of the pod. These 4. Then plant height, position of the flowers, and flower color. And these were the different characteristics that are being shown in the picture. Now, moving to the exact what exactly he tried to do in terms of his breeding experiment. When he started his breeding experiment, he actually took the pure lines. Now I'll go back to this picture. Uh, yeah. So let's say, for example, when earlier how scientists did was, let's say they took the same plant, but they looked at all these characters, let's say seed shape, seed color, pod shape, and pod color. Now they were not able to differentiate between in one generation, because they might have combination of, for example, round shape of seed and green color of the pod, or in the same plant they might have round color of the seed and let's say yellow color of the pod, right? But what Mendel did was he only stick to one trait, that is either shape of the seed or the color of the pods or color of the seeds and so on. He did not look for any other trait in that particular experimental setup. So whatever he wanted to study, he only looked for those particular observations, and the rest was actually ignored, because then he studied those traits in the separately like producing plants, because there it has to be a pure line. Again, pure line would refer to, let's say in this case, it will always produce green color of the seed, or in the other case it will always produce yellow color of the pods. So that way these are called as individually pure lines, and then he crossbred it and then he observed it. So there was quite a lot of work. I don't know if you are able to imagine. First one was like 7 plus 7, these are 14. He had to establish these 14 pure lines, establish as in checking by up to 3rd generation, and then self pollinating them again from the various samples of the same trait, and then checking it again in their offspring if the same character is being produced. So that means, again, a purple flower line is established. Second experiment, again purple flower established up to 3rd generation. That means, let's say 3 months gone, right? And then whatever offsprings are generated after this individual 3rd generation, he crossed them, and then he checked if at all it is again producing purple flower. So that way he separated, okay, now this is purple line established. Then he went on simultaneously with the other traits also. That way the pure lines are established. And then when he also had different breeds, then he crossed purple flower plant with the white flower plant, and then he checked again what is the outcome up to second generation. Then again he went back, he repeated the experiment. So you can imagine the amount of experimentation that has gone in whole of this is quite extensive, and it's not just observation you need to record, you also need to record which plant is planted in which plot. So marking of the plot, then marking of those plants, putting labels to those plants, right? No one should forget, no mixing has to happen, creating that sort of setup so that no cross pollination can happen, right? All of those, several of these things was already being taken care by this Mendel. The selection of the pure lines which ascertain the homozygosity of the parent plant, that was done to start with. So that is, after self-pollination of the pea plants for several generations, it was ascertained that the 7 pairs of contrasting character which he had selected, they actually bred true to their character. And that is what Mendel also called them either pure breeding plants or pure line plants or homozygous plant. This is more commonly used terminology, that is homozygous plant. So that was one aspect. In the second set of experiment, he did the hybridization of the pure plants. So in this hybridization, he took these pure homozygous plants and he crossed them with each other. So like I said, purple flower with white flower, or yellow seed with green seed, or round seed with wrinkled seed. So these two generations of the pure lines, they were crossed with each other, and then he moved ahead further. So while doing this hybridization of this pure plant, hybridization is crossing with other contrasting trait. Yeah, that is what is hybridization. Otherwise we call it just crossing, that is of the similar type. So first thing he did was emasculation. Emasculation, you might remember this terminology from the first chapter, that is removal of stamens. Now in this case, because this is a complete flower, only stigma will be kept, anthers they will be chopped off or cut off from the flower, and that way whatever you want to do with, just to avoid the possibility of self-pollination, if you are doing cross hybridization experiment, let's say a purple flower is there, you don't want that purple flower anthers to fall onto the stigma of the same flower. Next generation is again going to be purple flower. So to avoid that, when we have to cross purple flower with white flower, we need the anthers of white flower, right? Or stigma of white flower and anthers of purple flower. Anyway, that way, right? So just to avoid that self-pollination, he did emasculation of certain plant, that is removal of stamens. The pollen from male parent plant, they were transferred to the feathery rather, not feather. So feathery stigma of the flowers from which the anthers were removed. So what this means is, he took the pollen from some other plant, whichever he wanted to cross hybridize with, and then he put those pollens onto the stigma. Like physically he kept those pollens onto the stigma from which the anthers were removed. That is, this emasculation was done in certain plants or certain flowers. In those flowers, those emasculated flowers, he put those pollen grains so that the cross hybridization is ensured. Otherwise, there is a chance of self-pollination. Bagging is another technique which utilizes this like kind of providing the protection in terms of whether it's a cross pollination or self pollination, whichever ways. So bagging is literally you put a bag around a flower. That is what is bagging. So cross pollinated flowers, they were enclosed in a separate bags to avoid the further pollen grain deposition. So when the cross pollination was over, when the pollen grains they were placed onto stigma, it was bagged. So a separate bag was tied to that particular flower so that no more pollen grains from any other source, they will go and deposit on that stigma. So that the chance of variation is completely negated there, and maintaining that whatever cross hybridization or crossing over is maintained throughout the experiment. Because this is quite obvious, it is growing in the natural garden setup. So there will be insects which will be carrying pollen grains. So they are going to cross hybridize if it is not bagged. And that is why, to avoid all such possible reasons, it is best to put a bag around these flowers. And then the seeds were collected separately in the mark bottle. So whatever offsprings seeds were generated, they were collected separately in the mark bottles, and the seed characters, they were studied immediately. Like if it is a seed character, that means from this list, these characters can be studied immediately, right? For example, even the pod color and shape of the pod, all these four can be studied immediately. But when he had to look for the plant height, or the position of the flower, or the flower color, he had to wait until the seed is sown for the next generation, right? These four characteristics can be studied immediately. As soon as you get the produce from the field of this first generation, you can study this characteristic. But this you cannot know if the until and unless these seeds, they are being sown into the soil. So that is what Mendel did until here. Okay, so I guess I'm going to take a stop here. The reason being, I have not completed preparing my slides further. So we can take a break here.